All right, so this morning we tried to buy the cable, and there's the the efforts of it. The range in here I was using for the standard deviation gave me 2 projections down. You can see the nice reactions we had off of that. Admittedly, I thought for sure I was going to get stopped. It came like so close to hitting it. I know some of you got hit with trading it live, and you weren't supposed to do that. You didn't listen. So for the folks that are trading outside of Forex Ltd, you're not listening. You're breaking the rules. So, but the outcome is a little disconcerting because now I don't know where. Excuse me. I don't know how far it's going to go down where it makes logical sense. So in other words, if I go one more deviation down, that puts us below these equal lows. But that might be a little bit more than necessary to get up into the fair value gap on the dollar, if it does it at all today. Problem I'm having is we're in the middle of the high and the low. We're right in the middle of equilibrium. There's a tug of war. It's a lot of back and forth. Bulls and bears are just not committed one way or the other. So it's making it rather difficult for this market condition for me. But excuse me. The euro, let's pull up a chart from over here. Not good. That's not a good pair to be working with right now. So I don't see anything there. Let's take a look at the Aussie. It's already moved a lot. So you can see the fair value gap, or I'm sorry, the void rather, offered resistance 2 times and then really sold off. It took it all the way down to the mean threshold of the bullish order block between these 2 candles here. It's probably not done, but it's just so far down. I don't want to be selling it now. It's too deep in a discount. So it takes me back to, do I want to sell short cable? Because cable may take us down below these equal lows in here. Just really, it's hard for me to make a decision in here because we're up against a bullish order block at the bottom of 2 standard deviations. And the uncertainty of the dollar this morning, at least ahead of 8:30. I don't know. It might just become a doji up here and start reversing and going down to this level here, leaving the gap for non-farm payroll still. So I didn't sleep. I was up all night long. I was trying to figure out what I could do with the New York session in the event that cable gave me just one small little piece at 125. It never even got to 125. So if it breaks down, trades through these lows, comes back up and finds some resistance at the bottom of this up candle, that might be an area where you can get a short on for New York to get back the 8 pips that I took on this morning. Just don't want to do it ahead of the 8:30 news. I just don't trust it. And 8 pips, this isn't that much of a big deal. Let's look at CAD. It should be close to its... Yeah, it hit it. So that's interesting. So we'll be able to see something, hopefully, either run through it or reject it. If we trade through this, then I will be interested back in this pair, only for a low resistance liquidity run for the equal highs up here. So that's the trade I'd like to see happen. And that would definitely become a viable setup that would be on the heels of this move here, 100.73 to 101, closing on this fair value gap between this low and this candle's high. Don't worry, I'm not getting sick and I'm not losing my voice when I'm talking too much. I got allergies. It hit me in my face this morning at 4 o'clock. Back to cable. Well, I thought at the minimum we would come up here and at least close in this gap. And it still might happen and just to frustrate me. But given where it's at, I don't know, to be quite honest with you. So if I don't know and I don't have any strong conviction, I can't execute. So I can give you scenarios to watch this morning, but I don't have anything yet. And now that may change at 8:30, obviously, if I see something that it stands out going into the news or right as the news releases, then I can give you a chart via Twitter. But right in here, I still don't see it. Because we got we got 1 and 2 premium PDA, and then you have 1 discount. So you have equal lows below us at a point where it's already moved a lot, and it's exactly at 2 standard deviations, which makes sense why we found support there. Came all the way back up, closed in the range in here, but left this gap with no Judas. So we just rolled right out of it. And the fact that we saw 40 some pips in 1 minute, as soon as I put the order on, makes you wonder if they're freaking watching, isn't it? But it traded all the way down in 1 minute, more than 40 pips, went right to 2 standard deviations, and then it held consolidation, tried one more time to run through it, and then rejected. But now we have the scenario where if the dollar rallies and trades up into its fair value gap on the daily, that would cause room for this to trade lower. Now, if that happens, and say we explode up into that gap on dollar, we could see this scenario, which if I'm looking to go short cable now and reverse my idea, we would be looking for 123.85, 124 big figure, and 124.15 as downside objectives. So that could be a catalyst where we see a lot of extreme sell-off on cable. It gets, really excited about whatever comes out of 8:30's news embargo. But Aussie, where are we at here? Aussie. That one's just too far gone. It's not worth touching right now. There's no real level to work with. It's on a daily. PD array, mean threshold of the bull shoulder block. and that's not strong enough for me because it's not clean. We have a lot of, this isn't clean enough for me. Let's put it that way. I would be more inclined if it was down here on this candle's opening. If it hit that, then I'd be more inclined to take some kind of a long in New York and trade some of the range back up a little bit. Not the entire range, but some of it. But because we're in here, it's just sloppy. And again, it gets back to where we are in here because there's really no discernible level except for this fair value gap, which is a draw on dollar going higher. But we have non-farm payroll. And I think if we don't go up there today, they're going to wait for non-farm payroll to drive it up there then. So that's what's making it difficult for me to make a decision, at least for the New York session this morning. Now, I had the recording going from the time of right before the news release at 4:30 this morning for cable, and I was able to capture the reaction of all this move here, and it immediately fizzled out. Didn't give us any more follow through. Now, if dollar would have came up and spiked into this and then rejected at the same time, cable would have did, we're at at the same time, cable would have traded down into 2 standard deviations. That would have been a really strong buy. This would have been a continuation rate. That little small down close, that would have been the New York setup for a long to continue up, closing the gap, run the stops, and maybe expand up into this level here. And then we'd wait to see if we could get a little bit more of a rollover into tomorrow to reach up into this level. But that's completely been void now. I know I don't want to buy it in here because I don't trust the fact that we're going to keep the London lows intact. There's a lot of liquidity resting right below that. So if we're going lower, that's going to put us one more projection of this deviation here, one more lower, and that's certainly going to give room for this to want to go up and close that fair value gap. So euro pound. You're probably going to hold euro in that mess right there. And then sync cable, which will drive euro pound up or keep it firm. So I don't see anything that I can work with in New York session this morning at this moment. So, but we would be looking for that 124.15, 124 big figure, and 123.85 as downside objectives on cable. But we already came down a lot in the first leg right out of midnight. I mean, it just ripped right away from there. No real run up, didn't spike above here, didn't give any kind of a, nothing really. It didn't give you anything in terms of getting in except for just a straight shot, which makes it hard. But when it did this, it wasn't like you could go to euro and say, okay, well, it didn't give it to me in cable. Let me just go over to euro and I'll find the Judas there. I'll find something that gives me something to sell into. It didn't happen. So all the action right now, all the players, if you will, they're selling the heck out of Aussie dollar, and all the money's in that. So I'm a little frustrated with myself because I even talked about this pair. I even said the levels, but I didn't like the timing on it. I don't like Asia. Now is your opportunity in here. So that's the business on that. But I'd like to see this thing trade through this up close candle. So let's do this. If we can get above that level, you can have a low resistance liquidity run or buy to make a run above that 135.80 level, maybe even 136 big figure. But it has to trade above, and in this instance it should close above it. If it does that, then logically it will want to run up here and hit these buy stops, because it's just not enough to get above here. Just to get above here and not come all the way up here wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, it's a mess. So I'm going to close this one here. I'm going to have the recording playing. That's why I was basically looking at charts while we're talking. But over here in the left-hand corner on today's posting of this morning's session, I'm going to have some notes about how the market reacted here and the deviations here. So I'll have all those notes in that post production for New York to give some kind of value, because I don't have any trade I can do for this session. So that will complete the day. Unfortunately, we didn't get anything out of the pound I was wanting to see, but it's kind of a weird market move. It doesn't fit any kind of my expectations for intraday movement. I mean, this makes sense coming up here, but I wanted to see it continue through. But now it's just giving indication it wants to take out the equal lows. So watch this candle here. That will be most likely the framework for the short. So if we trade down and then come back up and hit that level, depending upon how far we go below this low, these lows in London. So if we go down like 1 or 2 pips just below it, and then come back up and hit this up close candle at 8:30 or just after 8:30 within the first 5 minutes or so, that could be the catalyst for the continuation going lower. And then we could look for 124.15, 124 big figure. And if we really roll 123.85, which I don't see that one today, but we certainly could see 124.15. And that'll probably be the play I'll use to get the 8 pips I took as a hit in London. And apart from that, the only other thing I wanted to mention was that trend line business that we were showing yesterday. The folks are going to be looking at that as the long. They snapped it down here and didn't reject to take it back up. That's what I was expecting. The play was folks have been buying. Stop loss. We know it's going to go back to this one here. So our stop loss was significantly below that and below 2 standard deviations. Got real close to it, but then hit it. And I was expecting them to come down here, knock out these stops, keep us intact, but I didn't want to be up at 4 o'clock, even though I was. But I should have waited a little bit longer. I mean, at least maybe I could have done something in here. Maybe. I don't know. But that's how I trade when I don't want to stay up. I put the order in. I let it go. I put my stop in a reasonable location and let it go. When I'm up, I'm waiting for the level to trade after the news. As the news hits, I'm trading it right into those runs against where I think the market's going to go. And you'll see more of the same of what you saw tonight in terms of placing the limit orders before the moves come, so that way you don't have to be up all night long. And then I'll also show you live scenarios where we're actually got to sit in the charts and watch it happen live. But we'll get closer to the news releases when that happens. It won't be just 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And that's it, folks. I'm going to close it and let 8:30 come. So be mindful of Twitter in about 25 minutes or so. If there's anything there, I'll let you know. It'll be in a tweet going to the forum. Otherwise, I will give you a recap later on with additional notes with this recording. So again, it's only 2 recordings per day, London and post New York, whatever you do in New York session. If you got any questions, just hold off, because it'll probably be answered in the recording that's for this session later on. If we don't have any trades to take for New York, we will be again meeting at 1 o'clock in the morning New York time for London tonight. Until then, wish good luck and good trading.